Yo! It's you! How the f***'s it going? Today is a special day. Sit down, take a seat, and pay attention. You just might learn something. Ever since I can remember, I've always loved gangster stuff. I don't know why. I've always been drawn to it, especially like mob stuff. I think for me, the biggest part of it is I really like the idea of people living by their own set of rules.
A man must have a code. Oh, no doubt.
And kind of just doing whatever they want all the time and taking what they please unapologetically. I'm a huge fan of like mob movies. Love Godfather, Goodfellas, Mean Streets, blah blah. Prior to recently, I had never seen anything involving The Sopranos, except I think I saw one scene when they were winning an award on TV. My parents were watching an award show, like an Emmy or whatever, I don't know what they are. I believe it was the scene where Tony and Carmela have an argument, and Tony punches the wall. Both fucking incredible in that scene. If you've never seen that scene in your life, it's amazing. That whole episode, it's called White Caps. That whole episode by James Gandolfini and Edie Falco, unbelievable. The acting is awesome. It's, I don't know, it's intense to watch. So, during quarantine, I was actually laid off, so I needed kind of something to do. I had a little free time on my hands while I was playing games or whatever, and I decided that I was going to watch The Sopranos. I was watching, like, my favorite, mob movie clips on YouTube, and in the recommended, it ended up showing, like, I don't know, a best of Sopranos thing. And I'm usually pretty timid about diving into, like, new stuff. I don't really know why, but I ended up watching one of these compilations, and I was really compelled to watch more. And I came to the realization that The Sopranos was like a mob movie distributed over the course of 6 seasons.
You come to me on the day of my daughter's wedding and ask me to do murder for money.
So I figured The Sopranos would just be like pretty action-packed, full of mob stuff. The only way I can really explain it was The Sopranos as a TV show was so definitive for mafia stuff. It just had everything. Today is a very special day. The trailer for The Many Saints of Newark has been released. This is the official trailer for 2021, and I'm not gonna lie, it looks like it has the makings of a varsity athlete. Only time will tell. Sad to say there's probably a lot riding on this. I don't want to say a lot riding on this, but I think people are extremely excited for this movie, and people are really looking forward to seeing all of these characters like Dickie Moltisanti, Johnny Boy Soprano, even Junior and Paulie, all these people when they were younger in their heyday, probably when the mob was at a much better point than when The Sopranos takes place. That's kind of one of the ironic thing about The Sopranos is, like, I think towards the end of The Sopranos, the actual mafia is having a very hard time staying alive. I think with so many different things, like, we are very able to crack down on organized crime. They talk about DNA testing and all this new technology that's making it harder for them to do their jobs. So what is The Many Saints of Newark? In The Many Saints of Newark, it details a young Tony Soprano as well as many other affiliates, such as his father, Johnny Boy Soprano, Dickie Moltisanti, father of Christopher Moltisanti, Paulie Walnuts, Silvio Dante, and the list goes on. The title itself, Many Saints of Newark, is a tribute to the Moltisanti name. Moltisanti actually means many saints. Originally, when they were talking about this movie, I think a lot of people thought it was actually going to detail a lot about Dickie Moltisanti, and there would be splashes of a young Tony Soprano. However, the trailer that was dropped today paints a little bit of a different picture. If you haven't already seen the trailer, I would highly suggest before you watch this video to go ahead and watch the entire trailer, maybe once or even twice, give it some thought, because I'm really curious, and I think it's good conversation. For what it's worth, I'm going to be using this video from Movie Trailers Source. It's a huge channel. So, I'm going to play through this trailer, and I'm going to make some commentary through it. So, again, I highly suggest watching it before watching this video, because I will be interrupting it frequently. We have, Michael Gandolfini, a young Tony Soprano, and a blonde girl. I have been wondering if Carmela is going to show up. In the TV series, it talked about how Carmela and Tony were high school sweethearts. I believe this takes place in high school. Based on this picture already, I think she's Carmela.
When I was a kid, guys like me were brought up to follow codes.
Hey, jerk off.
Not good.
What'd you say? What?
Alright, so we have a few things happening already. So, first of all, it starts off with someone trying to mess with Tony Soprano. Not a good idea. He's toast. You can see on, like, Tony's teeth, they're, like, starting to get some damage or whatever. Obviously, James Gandolfini had, like, some chipped teeth and whatever, and one was all kind of messed up, but I don't know. I'm kind of curious on what's going on there. Maybe it's just, maybe it's his son's actual teeth, and I'm just actually insulting him, sorry. So a couple things. Next, we hear Tony Soprano's voice, pretty chilling. I think this is taken from the Sopranos series, although I don't recognize the line. Additionally, after that, a voice says Anthony Soprano, or maybe it's before. A voice says Anthony Soprano, and I believe that voice was the voice from when Tony had the dream about his high school football coach and how he should become a leader.
Antonio Soprano.
That voice.
I wonder if I can talk to you alone for a moment, Mrs. Soprano.
You see the way that he's standing? Everything about that is very Tony Soprano demeanor.
On the basis of the Sanford Binet, he's high IQ.
High IQ
You
confirmed.
can't prove it by me. He's got a D+ average.
The results tell us. He's a leader.
We have like 3 things going on there, at least. First of all, we have the IQ test. Later in The Sopranos, when Tony B comes back, his cousin, they talk about how they took a IQ test.
No offense, John, but I got an IQ of 136. It's been tested.
While they were in school, and Tony Blundetto did like crazy well. He was a very smart person according to the test. Tony also scored pretty high. Next, we have Livia Soprano. So the actor's already looking pretty convincing. They had a younger version in the Sopranos series when Tony did some of his flashbacks. I'd say it looks a lot like her. Either way, we also have her, of course, saying, based on what I see, my son is unimpressive. Additionally, she scoffs at the idea he might be a leader or whatever. She's, In one of his dreams, Tony Soprano meets his football coach, and in my opinion, what that dream was all about was, I think that Tony was kind of a burnout. I think he went to school, and I think he really wanted to be a football player and coach. And I think had he stayed in college or not ended up running with Dickie Moltisanti, as we'll probably see in this movie, maybe things would have turned out differently. And his coach is basically saying that Tony is a failure and he had a lot of leadership potential, to which Tony replies, you should see me now, I am a leader. Of course, he is talking about being a mob boss. There's also the irony of like a school counselor being like, oh, your son's a leader, and then he ends up being the leader of organized crime.
Uncle Dick.
Growing up with the family
Realities.
takes a toll.
The other thing that I noticed is this song 100% was in one of the episodes. Talking about, you need to serve somebody. I want you to pay attention to this actor that plays Dickie Moltisanti's face. I know this is probably not intentional, but he looks a lot like Richie Aprile.
Takes a toll.
I think his face is just very Richie Aprile. Just from, I mean, it's so incredible how it was just from, like, just that little snippet in this trailer where you see this dude. He's already doing the signature, Pauly, whatever the fuck, you know? Yeah, so this is a guy named Billy Magnuson who will be playing Pauly Galtieri. I think that's a pretty... I don't know much about Billy Magnuson at all. Not even sure what that actor has been in. Filling Pauly Walnut's shoes is gonna be rough. That's gonna be hard. I mean, for one, Tony Sirico, the actual actor, was like an actual gangster. If you haven't seen, there was an old interview. I think it took place in the 90s, maybe even earlier than that.
A couple armed robberies in my life. I pay for them.
Did you ever kill anybody?
No.
Why not?
Why didn't I kill anybody?
Yeah.
That's a funny question. Well, how can I answer that?
But to me, it was like pretty dark. Pauly in the TV series is sort of like comic relief. You know, he's almost a caricature of like an old mob dude, right? That's what makes him so funny and so awesome, is because he's damn near a cartoon. You know, he's got these perfect, you know, hairdo. By the way, we're not seeing the wings here. I want to see an origin story on the wings. That's what I want to see. That's what I'm looking forward. I just hope it's not just like a sopping wet Pauly impression, you know what I mean?
I want to go to college. I can't get caught with shit like this.
I'm not gonna lie, I watched this trailer like fucking 8 times and I don't even know what he said.
You take the speakers, right? At the same time, you say to yourself, this is the last time I'm ever gonna steal something. It's that simple.
Yeah, so that's not gonna be the last time Tony steals something, right? So the actor that will be playing Dicky Moltisanti is Alessandro Nivola. Oddly enough, the only movie I know him from is Jurassic Park. He played the young kid that stole the raptor's eggs. We have this scene. It's Junior and Johnny Boy, right? Already looks, you know, right? With his hat, you know? That's... The hat and glasses is very distinctive, but I'm really curious to see what they do with Junior. This is going to create a really interesting dynamic here, where you have Junior and Johnny Boy being his actual dad, and Junior his blood relative, and then Dicky Moltisanti, where clearly he's only listening to Dicky Moltisanti. There was a point in the Sopranos series where he said Dicky Moltisanti was like a father to him.
Was like a father to me.
So I wonder if there's going to be like a jealousy dynamic between the dad and Dicky Moltisanti or something like that. You would think if Tony is getting into mob activity, then don't you think he would be doing it with his dad? I think it was also said in The Sopranos that his dad didn't really want him getting into that stuff. So maybe Johnny Boy Soprano, the stone cold gangster who chops people's pinkies off, is trying to be the voice of reason and the voice of good.
Dicky Moltisanti.
Maybe some of the things you do are...
So that last part, I'm looking forward to that because it looks like they're shaking a guy down in a mechanic shop. And of course I used to be a technician, and he has this impact with like a spinning socket in his hand, and I'm curious to see what they're going to do with that impact. They're going to hurt somebody with it, obviously. That'll be a fun scene. I don't know who that woman is. She was the one with the black veil. I don't know who that is supposed to be, but that'll probably be abundantly clear at some point. Her. Not sure who that's supposed to be. Might be Chris's mom. But also, I want you to pay attention to the way that, like, Michael Gandolfini, or Tony in this point, lumbers like his father in The Sopranos. So,
As far as your nephew goes,
I'm listening.
stay out of his life.
according to The Sopranos, the TV show, Tony was made after he stuck up Feach LaManna's card game. So, if it were to show him being made in this movie, I would assume they might show that robbery. And that's kind of the problem, is people are going to be looking and hanging on to certain things from the TV show. And I think the reality of a movie like this, or a movie at all, we're not going to be able to go into Tony's entire past. We're not going to be going into past of everybody at all. I think there will be a lot of interesting tidbits, a lot of really good stuff to chew on, but there's no way it could show everything, you know. So, a lot of interesting stuff going on. We have Ray Liotta here, and I think that's one of the most interesting mysteries of this whole thing is, who the hell is Ray Liotta gonna play? It hasn't been disclosed so far. We know a lot of the major roles. In my opinion, if I were the writer of this show, and I had someone like Ray Liotta on here, I would make him some kind of incredible OG from, you know, earlier on in the family. I think that's totally likely. Maybe he's the original April. Who knows? Prior to Jackie and Richie. You know, Jackie and Richie's dad. In this particular scene, it looks like he might be in Prison Blues, serving time. He's trying to tell Dickie Moltisanti to keep Tony out of it, and we all know Tony did not do that. Ironically, Sopranos was really, I don't want to say all about cameos, but there were so many, and so many different actors came in and out of that show. A lot of legendary mob actors, like even Feach LaManna, for example, was like the boss in Scarface. You know, you have all the people from Goodfellas. It's interesting to see that in this, they're starting with a lot of fresh actors. Well, not fresh actors. Obviously, a lot of these actors have spent a lot of time and have been in movies that we've seen, of course. It's not quite the stereotypical mobster cast, if you know what I mean. I actually think that leaves a lot of room for some really awesome stuff to happen. I'm curious to see how John Bernthal comes out, as well as Alessandro Nivola. And of course, we have to talk about, or at least I have to talk about, Michael Gandolfini. So James Gandolfini was regarded very highly by all of his co-workers, by everyone who met him. It sounded like he was an incredible actor, as well as a great human being. And ironically, James Gandolfini was like the opposite of Tony Soprano, which makes him an even better actor. You know, if you watch an interview with James Gandolfini, you'll be like, hey, that's Kevin Finnerty, right? Well, you'll watch James Gandolfini and you'll realize how really different Tony Soprano is than that man. James Gandolfini was a guy who would, if he got extra money on his paycheck, you know, as a raise or a bonus or whatever, he would split it with the cast. He was interviewing a veteran who I think lost his legs, or he was an amputee, and James Gandolfini was like interviewing him and had to stop because he was crying. He was so empathetic to the man that he had to, you know, pause the interview temporarily. So he was an incredible actor, and he really mastered at least rage. And up-close intimidation, insane. That puts some really big shoes for Michael Gandolfini to fill. James Gandolfini died pretty early. He was only 51. He actually died in Rome, Italy. Michael Gandolfini has some big shoes to fill. But in a way, we're all sort of looking at him to carry the torch onwards. I mean, no one's expecting him to make this movie or become, you know, Tony Soprano. Even the fact that he did this movie is incredible. And I think we have to give credit where credit is due. You can see a lot of James Gandolfini in Michael. I mean, he looks a lot like his dad. That's gonna make it really compelling and really convincing to watch, I hope. I probably have a million more things to say about it, but that's what I'm going to say for now. I'm really excited about what I saw in this trailer, and I can't wait for the movie to come out.